This is just for my own purification, Maharaj. I don't deserve to do this. Hanumatpresaka Swami, Professor HH Robinson, was born 1948 on the Pacific island of Guam. His parents were working there at the end of World War II. He grew up in Arizona and California and graduated with a first place prize in psychology from the University of California in 1971. He started his doctoral studies at Northwestern University, but his advisor, Professor Donald Campbell, suggested that if he was really interested in psychology, then he should head to the East. Following these instructions, he eventually met Srila Prabhupada, took first and second initiation, and then sannyas from His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami. With Maharaj, he worked in the area of preaching Bhagavad philosophy through science and the Vedas. He has continued preaching in this area as well as other cultural areas, forming NEOS, North American Institute for Oriental and Classical Studies, in 2004. With this, we would all like to welcome Maharaj by loudly chanting Hare Krishna once. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for accepting our invitation.
Well, thank you for offering it. Can we share our screen?
Would you want me to share, or you wish?
Yeah, it's there. I'm going to share my screen now. There we go. Okay.
Got it.
Hari Haraye Nama Krishnaya Devaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishnaya Devaya Namaha.
Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Sita.
Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita.
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 So yesterday we made this comment that we understand that three sources are considered very strong evidence amongst Vedic scholars, Indologists: the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutra, and Bhagavad Gita. And so in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says this movement is based upon Bhagavad Gita and therefore very, very strong. So understanding Bhagavad Gita is important. It's the basis. We have a Hari Lila here who's a structural engineer for great tower buildings. So he knows that some building in Houston may be 30 stories tall, and the foundation may only be one or two stories, the foundation, and he can't even see it. But that's a very important part of the structure. Very important. Yeah. And so then you might say that all of our other development in Krishna consciousness is very dependent upon our appreciation of Bhagavad Gita. And if you see in the Bhaktivedanta purports, when you're looking at Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Prabhupada, following the acharyas, is always quoting verses from Bhagavad Gita to illuminate, substantiate the points that are being discussed again and again in Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one nice technique is when you see these verses being quoted, then you take the time, don't just skip over it, but try and chant the verse, chant the Sanskrit, see if you can do it from memory. Then maybe look it up later on during the day. Use that as your study guide for Bhagavad Gita, how it's being used in the Bhagavatam. And then sometimes even more intense, Prabhupada just paraphrases Bhagavad Gita. Says in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, oh, and then do you know what verse is being quoted? Oh, that's this verse, that verse. And if we do that, we'll be refreshing our memory of different verses and the same way the acharyas use them, because some verses are more prominent. It was 1866, Sarvadharman Parityadya, again and again and again, to surrender to Krishna, surrender to Krishna. Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita is a very essential study. And of course, we can maybe chant the invocation together, How's it go? Yak Chakshur, the first one. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padon Sahagana Lalita Shivashakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Hari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, Srimati Radharani ki jai. So as we've heard from the sannyas disciples of Prabhupada who associated with him, the Prabhupada would chastise his Goswamis if they didn't know these Mangala Archana verses and the verses for Govinda and Gopinath and so on. So anybody is a lady or gent who wants to be Goswami and then become pure devotee, memorizing these things, taking them to heart in terms of our ability. So then we're on Bhagavad Gita here, and text number 4. In chapter, what is it? Chapter 4? There's chapter 4. Before this, Arjuna has a problem. He doesn't know how to act properly in terms of respecting his elder personalities and not fighting with his family. At the same time, having to deal with the problems of Duryodhana and the people have created, for Draupadi, for Yudhisthira. And so he surrenders to Krishna to take him out of this complicated thing of what is right, what is wrong, what is priorities. We all face with this. We're all being attacked by Kaliya with so many heads, but Krishna can dance on them and subdue them. Okay. So Krishna tells him first off, okay, you're surrendering unto me. Okay, your vanity, your attachment is your problem. And Arjuna is maybe willing to surrender his false ego to some degree here. Yeah, Krishna can make a reasonable explanation out of it. So Krishna starts off by explaining we're not the body, okay, and the body is different than the soul, and each soul is different, okay. Then he explains a little bit very indirectly about the dynamics of relating to the material world, how the non-material soul should relate to the material body. But that's very simple. It's a summary, but then, what are the details of how the soul should relate to the body and all these things? So third chapter, he begins to describe about you know, how everything is produced from grain. Grain comes from rain. Rain comes from sacrifice. Sacrifice comes from performing your duties described in the Vedas. You know, so he's starting to introduce the idea of karma yoga. You know, doing bhakti yoga in terms of karma yoga, bhakti yoga in terms of karma yoga, and we should understand this. What is our duty in terms of our persona? And do I have a youthful persona, an adult persona, an aged persona? Is my persona feminine, masculine? Is my persona American or Indian? Yeah, there are different kinds of things described in the Vedas about how we should act in terms of using this persona, and then it can be connected to Krishna, and it becomes, you know, transcendental tool. You know, we can get out of it. You know, or else if Krishna wants us to stay in it and then use it, okay, but now it's just a tool. Otherwise, we're caught in the automobile. We don't know how to drive it. We don't know how to get out. We don't know how to undo our seatbelt. We don't know how to open the door. We don't know how to open the window. And we can barely figure out which control devices for which function. We're trying to turn left and right by controlling the air conditioner switches. Yeah. So understand how to use your vehicle. Okay. Accelerator, brake, gas pedal, lights. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then he's describing karma yoga, chapter 3, dharma, karma. Well, where's this knowledge coming from? What is the authoritative source? How do we relate to it? And so then in chapter 4, where we are now, then Krishna says that, you know, he spoke this. Who is he? I'm a special guy. Well, he's distinguished that he's he's a liberated soul, but so is Janak Maharaj and other people like that. Yeah. So has he really described himself, you know, as being different? I think, and maybe somebody else, you can take your notes. The first time Krishna really distinguishes himself being more than just a liberated soul is in the 3rd chapter, 330 or something. Mai karmani sarvani. Mai karmani sarvani. Do all your karma for me. Well, maybe you can do all your karma for Janak also. That might also liberate you. You know. So he's beginning to indicate himself as being maybe a little special. But I would say right here, as he says that I spoke this, okay, he's just indirectly saying that, hey, I spoke this, and, you know, and all these things. Well, maybe Janak can also remember his previous karma and things like that he did in some degree. So Prabhupada very, very powerfully in the purports is describing how Krishna is different of the people. So Arjuna makes this question here. Please repeat. Arjuna uvacha. Somebody can chant.
Arjuna Uvacha
Aparam bhavato janma.
Aparam Bhavato
Janma
Param janma vivashvataha.
Param Janma Vivasvataha
Katam etav vijaniyam.
Katham
Vijaneyam
Tvamadao proktavam iti.
Tvamadam Proktavam
Tavam
iti.
Iti
Boliega.
Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna uvacha.
Param Bhavato Janma
Param
Param
bhavato
Bhavato
To
janma.
Janma
Param Janma Vivasvataha
Param
Parama
janma
Janma
vivashvata.
Vivasvataha
Katham Etad Vijaniyam
Katam
Katham
etav
Etad
vijaniyam.
Vijaneyam
Tvam Adau Proktavaniti.
Tvamadao
Adho
proktavaniti.
Proktavam iti.
Ladies, Kulastri, one of the ladies chant.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Arjuna Vacha
Arjuna uvacha.
Param Bhavato Janma
Aparam bhavato janma.
Janma Vivasvata
Param janma vivashvata.
Ham Etad Vijanyam
Katam etad vijaniyam.
Adahu Proktavan Iti.
Tvamado
Adho
proktavam iti.
Proktavam iti.
Translation. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. That's kind of like an understatement. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? So Prabhupada is going to point out that this is a rhetorical question. Arjuna kind of knows the answer already. Prabhupada says that Arjuna, kind of forgot who Krishna was, but he never stopped loving him. In his heart, he knew who he was, but he was caught up in the situation. So, he kind of already knew what answers he was going to get. And here especially, Prabhupada says in the purport then that Arjuna is asking this, Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, okay? But for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So some people are innocent, right? Innocent. And they just don't know. They haven't heard. And as soon as they get some information from a respectable source, then they give a honest attention to it and go on investigating as much as one can investigate by different methods, rational empiricism of science, or other ways of also knowing. So that's a question here. So much of the Bhagavad Gita is, how do we know, what Krishna is saying is true of these things? Okay, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? And then Prabhupada says that Arjuna wants to give Krishna a chance to speak. That's what we're doing. We're asking these proper questions so that the rest of the students, get a chance to hear directly as we've enjoyed hearing from Krishna. Okay. So
Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, your video is off. We cannot see you.
And that's good. Like that. You can see the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll try and go ahead for the video too. Okay. See if my connection holds. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I turned into a Rakshasa. Like I'll reveal my. I can only keep my human form for a certain number of minutes. Then I can revert to my bestial form. I have different forms. That's one of them. Okay. So here we go with Krishna giving Arjuna a Krishna a chance to talk about about who he is. And Krishna appears as the son of Devaki, so many things. So Arjuna is putting this question so Krishna can explain who he is. Okay. Yeah. And, yeah. And so the demons also can hear, and of course there are different kinds of demons. Some demons, are little bit demons. And maybe like us, we have some demoniac tendencies. But we're not really attached. So as soon as we hear them, we do our work and we give it up. Okay, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be greedy. I shouldn't think like that. Yeah, that's a better way to think. Okay, I'll do like that. Or else you say, okay, I won't. I'll stop drinking before noontime. Okay, somebody else has another attachment, different attachments, and so that's maybe somebody's on that level, but somebody else is attached to something else, eating rice late at night or something like that. Okay, so different levels, different levels of demoniac, selfish gratification. Okay. Then Prabhupada says the devotees will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists who consider Krishna an ordinary man may, in this way, by hearing Krishna speak himself authoritatively, come to know Krishna is superhuman, that he is Satchidananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental, that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. So this is it. Krishna speaks and the demons are listening, but again, there are different kinds of demons, and And they were responding. Vibhishana was a demon. Vibhishana was a Rakshasa, which is very, very inclined to being demoniac. But he was hearing, he wanted to see Krishna, he wanted to see Ram, he had Dharma in his heart. And so going and surrendering it, I thought it was true, it's fact, he's like this. So by hearing Krishna speak himself, even demons, people can be changed like that. Okay, text 5. Now Krishna is going to speak himself. Let's all chant this together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatitani Janmani Tavacharjuna Tanyaham Vedasarvani Natwam Veta Parantapa. Twam, the personality of Godhead, said, many, many births, both you and I have passed. Now, I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So right in the second chapter, Krishna says, never was there a time when you nor I, all these kings that exist, nor in the future shall we cease to be. But now he's starting to distinguish himself from everybody else. Well, maybe he's still like Janak, one of these self-realized God men. People think that. You think, well, we're different God men with different potencies. And some of them become Vishnu for some time and take the post of Vishnu and different things like that. So many ideas. Bhagavad Gita is dealing with them gradually. Yeah. Now, what does Prabhupada discuss in the purport? He starts to illuminate, expand, this knowledge by quoting from Brahma Samhita twice, 533 and 539. In Brahma Samhita, we have information of many, many incarnations of the Lord is stated there. Again, also all chant together. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Number 39. Ramadi Murti Shukalani Amena Tishtan Dhana Avataram Akaro Bhuvaneshu Kentu Krishna Swayam Samabhava Paramaha Pumanjo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Prabhupada's quoting these texts, and it seems that a lot of when Prabhupada's writing his commentaries in Bhagavad Gita, again, it's not so much for drug-addicted hippies. He was having to suffer so many times. His students, initiated people, were falling asleep in the classes. And there, many times it seems that he's addressing, the criticisms that are going to come from these demons, from these very scholarly, educated demons, Maya Paritagyanis, and not just for now, but for the whole future. So he's presenting a Bhagavad Gita, which has very powerful Vedic authority, but also he's quoting here from Brahma Samhita. So Brahma Samhita, we're maybe the only of the four sampradayas that actually emphasizes Brahma Samhita, and very rare. So I was looking up some resources and have talked to some other people, and some scholars are saying, well, this is part of the whole Pancharatrika tradition, which started maybe 2 or 3 centuries before Christ. So they themselves are giving some history to it. And then there are many Samhitas and things like that, which are describing a supreme deity and, are there with the Vedas. And the Brahma Samhita, some are accepting, okay, there's a comment that Madhvacharya cites it several times in his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, like that. So it was extant to some degree before Lord Chaitanya, but then sometime later, when Lord Chaitanya appeared, all he found was just the 5th chapter, that part of it. The rest of the text wasn't there. But of course, the Brahma Samhita and Krishna Karnamrita were the 2 books that he took such extreme effort to bring all the way back, walking on foot with his servant, back to Puri. And so it's very, very special. And it says in 1939, I think Bhaktisiddhanta wrote a translation. But I think before that, Jiva Goswami had a maybe Sanskrit commentary. So it's very much part of our tradition. It has this particular potency, but it's something which outside scholars, again, small demons might appreciate, very beautiful, very strong. The big demons will say, oh, it's not a part of the Vedas. So Prabhupada continues and he says, in the Vedas also, okay, and they're also describing that the one is one without a second. He has many forms, changes his color, but he stays the same way. So basically, that's what's going on here. Prabhupada finishes off by saying, the demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord explains in the following verse. So always two kinds of people, again and again. It's talking about the devotee, the yogi, and it's talking about the bogi and the demon, contrasting it. And it's so good for us to see these two dogs in our heart. Two different birds, two different people in our heart there. So any comments at this point? Any questions? Krishna is starting to reveal who he is. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. Yeah.
We'll take question at the end. We'll take questions at the end.
Oh, thank you, sir. Upadrasna. Okay, so take your notes. Okay, so now Krishna explains his nature. And this verse, I think, is very, very strong. Altogether. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakriti swamadistaya sambhavamya mamayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Okay, answering Arjuna's question. So Janaka and other people, their bodies are not the same body. So right away, Krishna is really explaining himself. His body never deteriorates, but he appears, and then he'll start to explain yada hi dharmasya, like that, why he appears. Purport: the Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. The peculiarity of his birth. Okay, so you see a problem when he's writing the purports. He's writing them in a sequence like that. It's not just focusing on one text and one purport, but he expects us to be absorbing the information. And it may take reading the Bhagavad Gita several times or different texts several times before we begin to get like a copy of it in our heart and assemble it. And the Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Okay. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his past deeds. Okay. Yeah. So this is Prabhupada's emphasizing this. What is the contrast between Krishna and us? Yeah. Prabhupada says, even if we have to remember even a few hours what we were doing before, may be difficult. What to speak of the previous day exactly? But Krishna is saying remembers all of his previous births. Okay. So one should not be misled by all these stupid claims that I am God, you are God, we are all God. No. Krishna appears within the Prakriti, but he is there in his Swarup, his own form. Okay. Yeah. And then Prabhupada says Krishna does not he goes from childhood, from boyhood to youth, but astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. So it's very, very specific form, Krishna is an ordinary person. What if you're going to take the texts themselves? No, Vasudeva never goes beyond like 25 years old, even though he has grandchildren and everything else. So many nice points that Prabhupada is bringing in to illustrate, Krishna's statements. And his body does not deteriorate. His intelligence doesn't deteriorate. Actually, the sun is always in a fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. It's very interesting because the Vedas are sometimes describing the earth as in a fixed position. The sun is going around the earth. If you've had a little bit of geometry or things like that, you know that there's a whole thing on translation of axis. You can move your axis here and there. So you can have a geocentric view of reality or a heliocentric view where the sun is the center. But you could also have a lunar-centric view. This is all mathematically and in terms of physical laws completely valid, okay. But, Prabhupada's making the point of view that the sun appears to move, but it's always the same way. So Krishna is appearing to different people in different universes, and his pastimes are going on in terms of the regular cycle of the drama of purification that's going on in each universe, but he's always the same. And then again, Prabhupada says here, the Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality is unborn. The supplementary literatures also confirm. So this is what Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra means establishing your position on the basis of all the different evidence from the Vedas. And the Purana, and we also accept the Puranas and Brahma Samhita. Okay. And of course, in the verse, Krishna says that he appears by his own internal potency. The word Maya, or Atma Maya, he's appearing by his own power, refers to the Lord's causeless mercy. Oh, he's being forced to appear by his Atma Maya. No. The definition from the Vishvakosh dictionary is that Atma Maya means causeless mercy. His causeless mercy. And again, this is here that what Prabhupada is quoting, the Acharyas are quoting, is the Vishvakosh. There's also the Nirukti. Nirukti is being quoted. The oldest English dictionary is by Samuel Johnson. I think what his name is, Samuel Johnson. I think so. And he wrote a dictionary. He defined words, and it was, very, very, biased in terms of his ideas and so on. But this is very common. And so sometimes when people are trying to establish what the Vedas mean and everything else, they'll use the Monier-Williams dictionary. So Monier-Williams was a guy in the 18th century, apparently, who just wrote a dictionary. And even that's fairly good if you're a Vaishnava, But why are you doing this? Why aren't you looking at the actual dictionaries which are accepted within the tradition? The Vishvakosh and Nirukti. Okay. And so finally, a question may now be raised as why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. Because he's not controlled by it. We're all individuals. He appears and disappears. And now Krishna is making it very clear. Altogether. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. And of course, the next verse, he'll go on expanding this idea. But here's the first principle that, he's here to protect religion. Prabhupada doesn't talk about that. He talks about Srijami. The word Srijami is significant. Okay. Srijami cannot be used in the sense of creation. My body is created. Okay. Whenever there is adharma, my body is created. Dharma takes a human form. And so a body is created. But that can't be the sense. You see, Prabhupada's focusing on a certain class of people who are going to write the different Mayavadi demoniac interpretations. According to the previous verse, there is no creation for the Lord's body. Therefore, Srijami means that the Lord manifests himself as he is. And then Prabhupada explains, he comes always at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, certain time, but it's because he wants to do it. He therefore appears by his own will whenever there is a predominance of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion. So this can mean, like in the age of Kali, it can mean in the world government, or it can mean each day in our life, when our life becomes too demoniac or confused, or then okay, he comes to establish the principles of religion. What are you doing here? Why are you organizing this festival? What is your program with your family? And to reestablish in our heart and our mind. Okay. And then he goes on to say that these are laid down in the Vedas. And of course, there's a very famous citation from the Bhagavatam, Dharmantu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. This is Yamaraj, the greatest authority in the Vedas of rules and regulations, moral conduct. He tells the Yamadutas, Dharmantu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. That this is what religion is, what Dharma is. And Krishna comes to establish this. Okay. Then Prabhupada says the highest principle of religion, in the end, he tells Arjuna, is to surrender to him. It's an active process. In the end, Krishna is going to drive the chariot, and he and Arjuna are going to be like this. When the horses are going to be like one unit, Arjuna has to shoot and blast away like this. People are shooting at him, and then Krishna may be yelling at him and giving him a warning. He's going to do a quick right turn, and Arjuna has to be able to respond to that, and the horses have to know what to do. Otherwise, they're going to get blown to pieces, So surrender is a very active process. It's not just Shanti Ras. Okay. Now then, Krishna gives an example of why he comes again and again, and he gives the example of Lord Buddha. And so our respect for Lord Buddha is our relationship with him. Then down below, he talks about, therefore, each and every avatar is described in the Vedas, has specific, qualities and functions and characteristics. And Krishna speaks as much about religion as he can, as can be understood by the particular people under particular circumstances. So Prabhupada is very clearly understanding how Krishna comes, and he's very clearly presenting, the idea that, Jesus Christ can be an empowered representative. The Prophet Muhammad, his name be blessed, can be an empowered representative. But they, Buddha, they only speak as much as the people can understand at that time. They may have smaller comments and more private circumstances, but they also have their general presentation of the level. Don't murder your daughters. Don't have sex with your mother. Okay, Muhammad had to say this. Okay. And then he also goes on, Paritranaya sadhunam vinaschaya chaduskritam dharma samsar padartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Okay, so immediately Prabhupada is talking about the sadhu and the duskritana, and how two different kinds of people, and who they are, what their definition is, surrendered to Krishna, but then he goes on now to talk about again why Krishna appears, because the duskritana, again, he doesn't really come to destroy him. That can be done by the modes of material nature, everything else. Maybe as a special favor, he kills certain demons because they're not such big demons that they're ready to become devotees, like Kaksa, like Hiranyakasipu, and so on. And then in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada's quoting from so many sources. This is Rupa Shiksha. Shristi hetu ye murti prapanchana avatare Saishvari murti avatara namadare Mayatita paraviyoma sabara ashvatana Vishve avatari dari avatara nama. Okay. So very, very, common point how Krishna incarnates. He incarnates in our heart. He incarnates in our mind. He incarnates in the people around us, the environment around us, to give us instructions by physical events, to give us instructions by people coming in contact with us. Purusha avatars, Guna avatars, Lila avatars, Shakti Avesh avatars, Manu avatars, Yuga avatars. Therefore, the prime purpose of the avatar is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. And that's the point he's making. To help different people, to destroy different problems. COVID can do that. Tsunami can do that, but really he comes because his devotees want to see him, devotees want instructions from him, devotees want to carry out their service properly, so Krishna comes to help them. And Prabhupada finishes talking about Lord Chaitanya, that he's the current incarnation. So if we're reading these things, for the first time, whatever, then Prabhupada's giving a very, very nice, practical explanation of these things, these acharyas, how these things work in the modern world, bringing it down parampara through Buddha, through Lord Chaitanya. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyatva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti so Arjuna. Yeah. One who knows, this is veti tatvataha, one who knows, really knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, does not upon leaving the body take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode. The Lord's descent was already explained in the 6th verse. Okay. The 6th verse, Ajopi Sam Tabayatma. Yeah. But when it can understand this, okay, then he's immediately liberated and everything else. That's Arjuna's problem. Arjuna wants to become liberated from his situation like that. So Veti Tatvataha only means sufficient knowledge to get liberated. It doesn't mean that you actually have to reawaken your original rasa with Krishna beyond the level of Garbhodaksha, of Mahavishnu, Vaikuntapati Mahavishnu. That's enough. You can just realize that Krishna is the source of all the material worlds. Okay, then you don't take in birth in the material world again. Okay. And then he's quoting from the Upanishads. Okay. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse by the Gita personally by the Lord. And then Prabhupada makes a little comment about Tattvamasi here. Okay, so finally finishing off, and here is the process. Vita raga vaya kroda manmaya mamupashritaha bhavo gyamana tapasya uttamad bhavam agataha. Okay, so being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So you have to take up this yoga, you have to accomplish these results. And so, as described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Are my deities in the house, are Radha Nila Madhava, are they really transcendental? How do I relate to them? Do they know are they here to help me right now to control my lust, to become free from attachment, become free from fear, become free from anger, So, very difficult. For ordinary person, they just stuck maybe with a gigantic manifestation, a scientist or something else. Consequently, they consider, okay, now then Prabhupada is going to go through the 3 kinds of problems here. Okay. And he says, some people are too materially attached. Okay, where is it? Some of them are afraid. Okay, yeah. Fear. He starts with Bhaya. Consequently, they consider the Supreme Lord to be impersonal. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation becomes frightening to them. We cannot fall down once we go to the spiritual world. There's a big argument about the origin of the jiva. Once we go back there, we were forced by bliss to serve Krishna. We can't fall down. We're afraid of our free will, afraid of our free will. So whether you're controlled as a drug addict or you're controlled by being beaten as a slave, in either case, you're being controlled. So we're afraid of our personal freedom and responsibility. So this is one of the problems, is that we have to, accept that we have personal responsibility, and become full devotees. Another kind becomes angry because they hear all kinds of contradictory theories and everything else, and they say, "Oh, there is no truth." You know, you see people like advertising Budweiser beer. You know, beer won't let you down. You have so many discussions, so many problems with the family, with philosophical things of what's right, what's wrong, it's okay. You know, and then I would. Yeah, I remember when I was in college, there was something. It would be the comment that beer won't let you down. Okay, so they take shelter, it probably says, of some kind of intoxication, you know, and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual visions. So the three kinds: people who are fearful of their spiritual life, people who are just too much attached, like all of us, and Krishna becomes very opaque. You know, we can't understand that the animals are not just meat. Can't even see that. You know, and then because of all these things, we get intoxicated. Okay. Now, finally, boy, we're finishing off here. Prabhupada quotes Adoshvada Sadhusanga Vajana Kriya and Naktana Vrishti. It says 410. So it's right here in the Bhagavad Gita as it is, the original Sanskrit. And then the summary of each step is given one by one. So again and again and again, this particular verse is being paraphrased by Prabhupada again and again. And these are all the stages. So he's giving such detail about how to take advantage of Krishna's incarnating, how to give up being a devotee, being a demon. And he's giving it the stage by stage, 3 general stages. And then specifically, he goes through the stages and becoming absorbed in me, becoming a Baba for me. So a lot of material here like that. So any questions or comments then? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Harigol Maharaj. Who goes? You and me.
You can go from.
Yeah, we can take the question answer session now, and then maybe Maharaj, you can take the screen off. Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, Aradhana Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. If you have any questions for Maharaj, please kindly raise your hands and we can take them one by one. Madhu Manjari Mataji, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, devotees. Thank you so much for the nice presentation, Guru Maharaj. Very impressive. A lot of topics, a lot of content. I like the summary, the way how you presented. But one of the things that impacted me a lot is the sense of the fear to take responsibility. And I was trying to reflect that in our own personal spiritual practice, and also the way how we understand our position and how we practice actually the process itself. So that is a little bit concerning for me in this point, because that fear and is kind of obstacle also in our practice. How to overcome
Raga Bhaya Krodha. He's Krishna is saying these are the obstacles. When I was one time, I was a brahmachari in the temple in San Francisco, 450 by Valencia Street, which used to be a mortuary and had ghosts. So I was just starting, my God, and trying to somehow or other live there. The people who survived through that whole beginning process and helped Prabhupada, they had so many difficulties, So anyway, at some point I would come back late at night. I was working outside and I would work from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight at MasterCard. And I would come back, I had a key, and I make sure all the windows are closed. And I would go up to the brahmachari ashram, which was a big room with, the glass broken on some of the windows. It was in the mission district. And lay out my sleeping bag on the floor and sleep. Okay. But then I had to get up in the morning and stuff after much less sleep than everybody else sometimes. And so sometimes I would be kind of sitting there, falling asleep next to my locker. And at one point I actually realized, that I didn't really want to go back to the spiritual world. That even all of my religious activity and everything else was for my own gratification. Oh, I'm so religious, I'm so pious, I give some charity, I do this and that. And Krishna was like, taking away the superficial coverings. And I became extremely depressed, about this situation. But then Krishna's arrangement, and Krishna incarnated in Bhaktivedanta purport. And so I read in the prayers but the personified Vedas, that that Krishna's foremost quality is his mercy upon reclaiming the fallen conditioned souls, And so we have free will, and it frightens us because then we realize, my gosh, I don't really want to go back to Godhead. I'm going to stay here forever, But no, that the potency that we have is not the supreme potency. Honesty, truth, satya is not the supreme potency. The supreme potency amongst all of these transcendental potencies is daya. Daya. Krishna is more merciful than he is honest. Krishna is more merciful than he is just. So like little children, we give them free will and everything else, but we keep an eye on them. And, we gave you free will, but. So in the end, Radharani is trying to, Durga is doing her job. She's enforcing our free will. You did this, you get this. What you want, you get. But Radharani is coming along and, and just, sneaking in and doing things and giving us little hints and stuff and helping us out and so on. And so that's the fact is that we can have a little relief that, okay, that we're trying to do this and we're afraid of our personal responsibilities, but Radharani will show us, and little children learn that, yeah, okay, this is, and this is who I am. It's just not unusual. It's just like a child may be afraid of walking. You see Prabhupada holding a little child and holding his hand, and the little child lets go, and then, oh, this is better. Okay, yeah. Then you even to realize that, yes, because I have free will, I can do things that Krishna cannot predict. I can discover different kinds of abilities that Krishna doesn't know I have, and so on. So then it's natural to be in that position. And Radharani helps us, Krishna, Prabhupada helps us to realize it, So does that help at all? Yeah.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, beautiful. Thank you so much. Very important. Thank you. I would say it's kind of a relief and also inspiring, motivational. Okay, we have some chance. Krishna, it's kind more than what you said.
Yeah.
Just.
It's the whole story in the Puranas of Satya and Daya. So what is the essence of justice, truth or mercy? And it comes back down to it's not Satya, it's Daya. And the Catholic Church, it's exactly the same thing. Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. And how can we strengthen that sense of responsibility and not just remain a little child that, okay, my father or Krishna through my guru or senior devotees will take care of me. So how can I strengthen and take more responsibility of my own spiritual practice?
By understanding our natural limits. Like I say, so you're some person's birthday, he comes home and yeah, he's okay. Maybe probably, yeah, there's some friends are there and stuff. And okay, it's going to be a birthday party and people bring different things and different kind of gifts and things are going on. And his little, like, 5-year-old daughter brings in a plate of cookies, like that. And he says, oh, where'd you get these cookies? And she says, well, I made them, And then he asks, well, did your mother help you? And she says, well, yeah, she helped a little bit, like that. So on. Yeah, so he knows that so much was his wife's work, But at the same time, it may be the very best gift that he got, right? Because he realizes that this person, really did their very best, and they did something, and that's what impresses him. If somebody very rich gives a nice gift, okay, but then so that's what we begin to realize that yeah, we are. What is our limits? We're little 5-year-old kids, and we are, but that doesn't mean we can't do anything, doesn't mean we're not important. And sometimes, the whole show depends upon one little person, many stories in terms of this, So yeah, we just understand what is our position. And then when we need help, we ask for it.
And part of that would be, as you said, surrender means it's an active. It's active. It's not a passive action.
Yeah, we gotta. When Krishna kidnapped Rukmini, Prabhupada says she grabbed the reins of the chariot and looked at Krishna, and this is the kind of girl you got. I'm a Kshatriya girl. So then Krishna could start shooting at people. And so she was driving the horses, whap, like that, and so on. Yeah. So other questions, comments?
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Maharaj. Anybody else has any questions?
Haribol Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. I got one question that is more related to Parampara. It's about when you have a guru. Usually you feel like really nervous to talk or ask questions that can help to improve our service to Krishna. And my question was, is that feeling of nervous, like feel petrified, goes away with the time? I don't know if that happens to you with Prabhupada or something, but
Yeah.
that's my question.
Yeah, our relationship to Guru is our relationship to Balaram. Balaram is the original Guru Tattva. And it's always expanding, right? Radharani is expanding, we're expanding, Krishna's expanding, Guru Tattva is expanding, And so, it has to develop. And in the beginning, it's very reverential. We begin to appreciate, probably saying in the beginning of, we have, father and mother, natural guru, guiding us, and then teachers, different people, and begin to have a relationship with them. And then when it becomes to the level of Diksha Guru, okay, then there's a formality there. And then this person is an authority and in terms of following the contract and those kind of things. And it's like, that formality has to be there. And then other people in terms of other relationships. But Prabhupada is saying that generally speaking, he said, yes, that the guru can relate as a friend, the guru can relate as, as somebody with us in conjugal relationships with Krishna. Balaram is teaching the gopis how to dance with Krishna. He never enjoys them as a husband. He only enjoys them as a dance teacher, right? The dance teacher is teaching some ladies how to learn the new dance so they can dance at the country club with their husbands. And he's enjoying this, but he's never thinking that he's the enjoyer. He's thinking, oh, these girls are really going to have a nice time, and they're going to be able to enjoy themselves. So Balaram is teaching the gopis how to engage in conjugal relationships with Krishna. So Sridhar Maharaj, his godbrother, and I've seen also comments by Prabhupada saying that yes, the expert spiritual master can reciprocate in all these things, but we usually don't talk about it so much in general circumstances. And basically the attitude towards Guru is basically is this respect and so on, And Hanuman is in Dasya Ras with some Sakya Ras, like that. And so then, he's like, he's always very happy being the chauffeur, being for many years with his boss, who's always has some important post in the government. But then many times his boss talks with him, let's go through the park before we go home. And he talks with him about things that are happening in the government. And then he starts to say, well, sir, you should have told that guy. He's always causing a problem like this. And you should have said this. And so there's some, Sakya Ras there too, So, it's just generally speaking, that attitude is there. One time Prabhupada said, what was that? I'll just make it, I'll close it down here. Chanika Pandit said, one should not get too close or too far away from three things: a fire, a brahmana, or a king. One should not get too close to these or too far away. If you get too close, you're going to get burned. And if you get too far away, you derive no benefit. So that's actually the position of understanding. And many of Prabhupada's direct physical disciples, they'll tell you stories about getting burned by Prabhupada. Yeah, Prabhupada told one story about himself being burned by Bhakti Siddhanta. Wow, it was like 3 days. He like covering. Yeah, but it's all mercy, all mercy. So that's the thing. In the beginning, yes, it's not it's what unusual to have like some fear and everything else because we're in the mode of ignorance. And the mode of passion, we start thinking about, oh, what can I get from Prabhupada? Can I become temple president? In the mode of goodness, then we're starting to think like, what is my actual position? How can I do my service? And like that. Then when the actual spiritual relations start to develop, then it starts to develop in terms of, who's more advanced, the gopis or Uddhava? What's the relationship with the gopis to Uddhava? Yeah. So in the beginning, yes, and it's kind of like you can always keep Shanta Ras and respect, and maybe fearful because we are criminals. Yeah, but then we should get free from that and just bring ourselves together and go beyond the kiss of the feet, as the Christians say, and go to the kiss of the hand, like that. So yes, sir. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Maharaj. Devotees, does anybody else have any question for Maharaj?
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for giving us your wisdom, very valuable wisdom, and very insight into the Bhagavad Gita verses that you have explained yesterday and today, giving so many nectar or the philosophical points, some bhakti point, and enlighten some references. Very nice, Maharaj. Thank you so much for giving us that kind of transcendental knowledge from this chapter, transcendental knowledge. Very nice. So, if there is no question at this point, we may close this session, Maharaj, here. Thank you so much for everybody can open up their microphone and thank Maharaj or give some their
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj. Hare
Hari
Krishna.
Bol, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Jai Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
His
See you
Guru
soon.
ParthSarthi Swami
Yes.
Maharaj ki
Rama
jai.
Krishnananda Das.
Prabhupada.
Chile, Peru, Argentina.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna, 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 Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Thank you very much.